sort of just how would people behave in this situation, sort of like what are the little stories via which like things are going to go straight to hell and then get worse. And I love this movie. It has I don't know if I want to maybe a little bit of a controversial ending. But again, it's sort of like it really scratches that feel bad itch for me. I absolutely dearly love this movie. There's a cool like black and white version of it on here, which is really fun to watch. It really holds up very well in black and white as well, and it's just a testament, I think, to like this didn't have a big budget. It does, like, the monsters are all CG, which is like slightly disappointing, but they did a good job with it. So I love this movie. Obviously, it's number 9 on my list here. Amazing. Next up, Lord of the Rings. Now, this may be a little like, I don't know, cliched or to be expected, but, gosh, I was introduced to Peter Jackson at this kind of great time, like when I was in college and I was getting really into film, and it was like all of Peter Jackson's just like fun, campy, horrible stuff, like Meet the Feebles and Bad Taste, and there was like this horror movie he did that I can't think of the name of. Anyway, like his old stuff that was all really interesting and just bad, basically, but bad good. And Heavenly Creatures, which is really good. It's for me. I used to love Heavenly Creatures, but it's I have a little more trouble with it now as an adult because it's based on a true story where people actually died, and that's harder for me now, I think. I'm not quite sure how I feel about that, but nobody died for real in the Lord of the Rings story. It's all fantasy, and so like basically I was primed when Lord of the Rings was coming around. I was already a huge Peter Jackson fan, so to see him like tackle this and do such an amazing job with it was awesome. I love these movies. I can just watch them over and over again. I mean, they do wear out a little bit. You can watch them too much, but I just think they're amazing. I love the extended editions of them. I think they have a lot more character moments to them. Visually these are amazing. I think, as far as fantasy stories, I read The Hobbit when I was younger. I never quite got into Lord of the Rings. So, but just for like Tolkien, fantasy, these are great and definitely deserve whatever, number 7 or something here on my list. Next up. This is one that people will probably not agree with me on, and I have no idea why. This is actually 7. I guess that was 8. The Book of Eli. I love this movie. Denzel Washington is amazing in this. He's so good. And you have Gary Oldman playing like, I hate to like typecast Gary Oldman, but he makes such a good bad guy. He's playing like his role from The Fifth Element, which I actually don't like very much, but like Leon, the professional, he played a great bad guy. He even like Lost in Space and stuff. He's got that wonderful like not good character down, and he plays it fantastically in this movie. I love the themes of this movie. Again, this is post-apocalypse. A lot of action. It's really almost martial artsy, but there's gunplay, there's all kinds of stuff, and I love the story in this movie. It's also got what's her name, Mila Kunis in it, and like she does a good job in this. I like her in it. I mean, there may be some things about the ending that are like slightly cheesy, but man, for some reason people were really hard on this movie. Critics were hard on it. Audiences were like, I mean, if you go to Rotten Tomatoes, you're gonna think that this is not a good movie. I have no idea why. It's amazing. I mean, I listed it as liking it better than Lord of the Rings. Okay. Again, because it has so many of these elements that I really love, the post-apocalypse, the martial arts, and it has this great message to it, I think. Even if I don't like, even if I'm not really like vested in like everything about it, it's an amazing movie. I love this movie so much. As you can see. Next up, oh, something I don't have, but I will agree with this this choice of both Corn Muffins and Happy Console Gamers, which is Blade Runner. But once I started like having to rank these movies and go, okay, well, like, is this movie really better than this movie? Is it really, Blade Runner just ended up here at like the sixth spot because it's incredible. It's such a good movie. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you guys know you've got Harrison Ford, you've got like Rutger Hauer, you've got Daryl Hannah. The cast is awesome, and Ridley Scott. Again, like you almost have to have a Ridley Scott movie on one of these lists if you're somebody like me, and it's amazing. It's a beautiful movie. It's there's so much style to it, and again, it's so dark. It's so like cyberpunk and just such an interesting science fiction story. Again, like kind of an examination of humanity and like robots versus humans, and it leaves with this amazing ambiguous ending depending on which cut of it you see. There's a particular cut, I think it's the director's cut that I think ends the best and has the most interesting message to it. But just you can't argue with what an amazing movie Blade Runner is. Because I just love this movie so much. That is Jurassic Park. Now this is the trilogy on Blu-ray, but I'm counting basically the first movie. The other movies are good. I actually like. I mean, maybe not objectively good, but like I like dinosaurs and I like the action that happens in the Jurassic Park movies. But the first movie is easily the best. I gotta say Sam Neill is a great actor. He's been in a lot of really good movies. Oh, I'm not sure that I have any John Carpenter on here, which Corn Muffin and Happy Console Gamer both had John Carpenter on here. I'm thinking of In the Mouth of Madness, which is a really cool movie. I really like that. John Carpenter for me somehow I think just kind of like barely doesn't make it onto my top 20. I love The Thing. I love In the Mouth of Madness. I love I'm sure there's another John Carpenter. Big Trouble in Little China is good, but anyway, enough about John Carpenter. We're talking about Steven Spielberg, and we're talking about CG dinosaurs, and another amazing, slightly feel bad movie where everything goes to hell, which is what I love about this. And you have these fun like little vignette stories of the different characters. Of obviously you set up this conflict of is his character ready to be a father. So there's that plot line. There's oh gosh, David Goldblum's character, which I think somebody had Buckaroo Banzai maybe on their list. I kind of forget. Yeah, it was. Happy Console Gamer definitely had it on. I don't remember if I don't think Corn Muffin did, but Houdini's wandering around his enclosure. He's so much fun. But yeah, Jeff Goldblum, amazing. And also, I forgot about The Fly. That's another really good. We're talking Jeff Goldblum and David Cronenberg. But anyway, back to Jurassic Park. Anyway, you guys know Jurassic Park. It's they clone dinosaurs and everything goes to crap. Amazing movie. I dearly love this movie and I watch it constantly. Next up, Akira. We're putting anime movies on here. I don't care. I already had one named Amnesia, and the next one in number 4 for my favorite movies of all time is Akira. Now, I kind of resisted getting into anime in the 80s and the 90s. That's not really true. The early 90s. So, but I had I met people that maybe like not from my like circle of friends in high school, but like when I went to like other like summer schools and things like that. I ran into people like this one guy in particular I'm thinking of where he's like, oh man, like just based on like you know, you would really like Akira. And I was like, really? You know, I'd never really gotten into the anime thing before. And this was not my introduction. I've already talked about how I watched like New Dominion Tank Police and like New Cutie Honey and like Project A-ko, and some of those things really introduced me to anime. But eventually I tracked this down, you know, not too long after I was starting to become like, you know, a little more versed in Japanese animation, and it blew my freaking mind. This holds up so well visually. You know, traditional animation still has an aesthetic to it that's beautiful. Like you really can't. I think that this is kind of the pinnacle of traditional animation that's ever been done. You know, you could probably make an argument against that, but I think, you know, this would hold its own pretty darn well. But you know, not only that, like again, this is another one of those like science fiction, post-apocalyptic, feel bad movies where everything goes to hell. But again, it's very interesting. It's essentially about a boy who gains psychic powers, and it sort of leads him to like be self-destructive and kind of like not just self-destructive but kind of homicidal. But it ends up being this kind of examination of like him and his friends, and his kind of like his personal life, and like that sort of extends out into like, I don't know, just the human condition. You know, it's a really wonderful film. I'm sure you guys have probably seen this. If you haven't, it's number 4 on my list. Next up, I'm putting this above Akira, Sin City. Here we go with some more Frank Miller comic books here. Now, going back to my friend and I in high school, I did get into like Dark Horse Presents. For whatever reason, I started getting into Sin City when it was published in Dark Horse Presents, and I think they did a compilation volume, or it might have just been like the ending of the series. I forget, but it was just Marv's story. That's all that Frank Miller did originally back then. The artwork in it was really cool, and you know, that's one of the things about this movie is like they captured that look of the comic so well in this. It's so stylish, and not only that, but like again, we're talking a really feel bad movie, a revenge story, a little bit cliched. I mean, in terms of like, I mean, if you're going to sort of like tropes versus women, and you know, in video games and at this point, or comics and media, you know, this girl is basically like the girl in the fridge or something. I mean, you have this girl that shows up just to get killed so that Marv gets pissed off. But it's a strong motivation for him, and he's a little bit mentally unhinged too. So it's such an interesting character to follow, because like he's kind of slow and kind of like crazy, but like you so root for him, because it's kind of about this justice again, of like this underdog, like just standing up against injustice and the system that's broken, and like I just love how Marv kind of tears that all down. It's incredible, and there's multiple stories in this too, like sort of weaving in tales of like other like Sin City stories that Frank Miller did, and it's amazing. Like they just did such a good job. This is just a feat of cinema. That, I mean, when I watched this opening night, and like everybody in the theater stood up and like gave this like a standing ovation. Like we were so just hyped about this. It's such a good movie. Great cast, so good. Next up, another similar movie, V for Vendetta. This is another comic book movie, and I hate to admit it, but back when I was into comic books, I never got into Alan Moore, I believe, is the person who wrote V for Vendetta and Watchmen and that thing about Jack the Ripper and some of those things. He seems like an amazing author. Obviously, a huge impact on comics and, you know, creative people, and you know, people have gone on to make movies of his stuff. As much as I love Watchmen, V for Vendetta is the movie. Again, this is so. This is such a wonderful revenge story. I love the character of V. He's so kind of like doing what needs to be done. Like, I don't know. It's I want to say to right or wrong, but he kind of is, because he becomes the symbol of like standing up to tyranny. So like that's a really important thing in this world of V for Vendetta. But like again, he's also insane, more or less. But like he's sort of like the insanity that, like, I don't know, maybe you need to like stand up to like genuine oppression and genuine injustice, you know. And I don't know, they just, everything plays out so well, where you kind of see the whole thing through like Natalie Portman's character's eyes, who I forget, Evie, I guess. You kind of see everything through her eyes, so you sort of taken along in this whole journey of like her discovering who V is and who herself is throughout the movie. And by the time you get to the end of the movie, you kind of, you know who they both are, and like kind of, what they need to do, and it's excellent. Such an amazing movie. Number 2 here on my favorite movies of all time. And sorry, if I remember correctly, that was actually by the Wachowski brothers, who did The Matrix, which I think this is way better than The Matrix, even though The Matrix was good, the follow-ups weren't so good. And it also, it stars Hugo Weaving, I believe, who's awesome. He's a great actor, so there's that. My favorite movie of all time, you guys might know what this is. It hasn't shown up on my list yet, so Robocop. This is such a good movie. Again, I think out of the decade of the 80s, this is the cream of the crop for me. More than Akira, more than Blade Runner. Robocop is just so good. I definitely saw this, as probably a lot of people that grew up in the 80s, when I was too young. But that's, I think, one of the reasons why it had such a big impact on me and that stayed with me all of these years. And it's way over the top violent, but it's also a story about revenge. It deals with a lot of those themes too that you get in these other movies, sort of like, what is it to be human? Kind of by dying and being reborn, so to speak, I mean, people will say there's like these Christ analogies and stuff in the movie and things like that. I don't necessarily get into that like symbolism about it as much, but you have these companies, like sort of like these big conglomerate like OCCP, or OCP, I forget what it is. It rings so true today. I think it's kind of frightening, where they sort of are controlling everything, and they're kind of trying to like privatize the police and this whole city. Like, so they're trying to build, what is it, New Detroit or whatever it is, and and of course they sort of like, they're kind of corrupt on all of these levels in terms of like but basically because they own the police, they can, they can do whatever they want to, and again, you kind of have this one man who's like horribly wronged and like, just brutally murdered, and he gets to come back, and you kind of like, you get to watch him as a character like sort of lose everything and like try to just recapture like these little pieces of his humanity, and it just for him to kind of like get his revenge on like not only like the people that he was wronged by, but sort of like this system that is I mean, somehow this system that created him, that somehow he's also able to kind of get back at, like have like some justice within, is just, it's so satisfying. Like when you watch this movie, and the practical effects in it are so good. It's one of those things that kind of like, I'm not anti-CG, and you've seen the few of the movies on here, there's kind of a little CG heavy even, but there's something about this that it stands the test of time. It's really good. I like Paul Verhoeven as a director. I like stuff like Basic Instinct and Starship Troopers and Black Book. I don't know if you've ever seen that. That's good, and like some other stuff of his, but this is the best. It's just the best. It's an amazing movie and my favorite movie of all time. So I'm sure that was exceptionally long, but thank you for sticking with me, and I hope that this was interesting just to hear some of the movies that I really like. I loved hearing Corn Muffin's list, and I think we might not have agreed on too many things, but I think there was a lot of overlap in terms of director and some styles of movies, and some things in common with Johnny's list. So yeah, I just wanted to share that with you guys, and yeah, thank you so much again for watching, and to my patrons for helping to pick out this this video, and I hope you'll join me again next time. Thanks.